Hey everyone, what is going on? I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and this is our week ahead astrology breakdown. So, this week, a lot is moving, a lot is shaking, especially right at the top of the week with that Cancer new moon, with the nodes ingressing into different signs. So, we're going to jump into that, explain all of that in good detail. So, are you ready? Ready or not, here we come. So, Monday, July 17th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm giggling because it's nice for me as an astrologer when all of these transits are shifting because change is about to happen. I keep hearing that from everyone that I'm around, a lot around career too, which is interesting. But that just seems to be like a major theme coming up right now. But naturally, with Venus stationing retrograde this week, we have Leo season starting this week. There's going to be a lot in terms of what makes us happy. So I would just kind of write down happiness as a word, maybe put it on your mirror, have it on a sticky note, put it in your journal. Like this is the energy that we're cultivating so that when we're moving through maybe challenging or intense energy with all the trans that take place this week, you're grounded in happiness or you're doing things to make you happy throughout the week so that that just gets to be the frequency that you're fine tuning to make that more constant throughout. All right. Now, before we get into that Cancer new moon, I wanted to emphasize that this Mars-Saturn retrograde opposition is pretty much happening all week. Now, this isn't anything to freak out about, but it is something to note that you're likely going to be putting in a lot of work towards something and to not forego or to stave off your emotional well-being. I mentioned this way back when we had that Capricorn full moon a couple of weeks ago, that it would be very advantageous to have a professional, whether it be physical healer, mental healer, or spiritual healer in your back pocket. So as you're going through, let's say, a very challenging time where you're going to be putting a lot of energy to build new foundations or cleaning up your life, essentially, or getting better control of your emotions, that you're not doing it alone, that you have professional support helping you along the way. So this is just another gentle reminder at the start of this week. If you have not yet done so, or you wish to invest into, this could even just be getting a facial, getting a massage, or taking it a step further to really fine tune your emotional state and well-being to give greater rise to that. I personally would either do that now with the new moon and do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which are the strongest days of the week, in my opinion, to get ahead of the curve so that you're not trying to take care of the flood or the leak after the fact. Like you don't need to come home to your basement flooded. If you see the drip happening, the drip being maybe you're feeling overwhelmed or there's a lot going on in your life, address that at the start of the week. Don't let it build up and explode at the end of the week. All right. Not saying anything is going to explode, but an opposition to Saturn is one of the most challenging aspects one can face. So especially if you have prominent mutable energy in those early degrees, the mutable signs being Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius, this is an extra little heads up for you all, okay? Now, first things first, we're going to have that Cancer new moon at approximately 11:32 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Cancer new moon workshop is free. It's available for all. I'll put that description in the link below. So I'm not going to go too in-depth into this. However, noting that Monday, I'm not going to go in-depth because the workshop is available for you. So you can click that and do it at any time. But just know there is going to be an energy of newness, of renewal, a brand new cycle happening. You might feel like an emotional reset, or that you are feeling called to address your body or energies around your home or your family, maybe specifically a mother or a mother figure. Those are all very key themes around this Cancer new moon. Okay. Now, also to take note here is that with this moon, we also have the trine to Neptune. So be very mindful of your dreams, whether they be your literal dreams in the 3D and what you're cultivating and building towards, or when you are sleeping, there's going to be a lot of downloads that are likely to come through with this new moon. Now, secondly, the nodes are going to shift at around 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the North node will move into Aries, the South node will move into Libra. I'm going to have more content on this and offerings, but just as a heads up, in ways you can start looking at this is if you have prominent Aries or Libra energy. So sun, rising, moon, or multiple planets in the sign of Aries or Libra, this next 18-month period is going to be very activating either way. For those of you that don't have any placements in the signs of Aries or Libra, still look to the houses in your chart ruled by those two signs. The North Node is going to be an energy where you're going to be learning a lot, or where there's going to be expansion or opportunity to grow. The South Node is where things are going to be released, taken away, and taken away not in a bad way where the universe or this transit is out to get you, taken away in the sense of like the Tower card in tarot. Things that were not secure, things that are not meant to serve you, things that you're doing of obligation are going to be released, or you're going to be shifting into more of these Aries ruled themes in terms of independent or courage or working towards something that brings you passion, so that you get to rebalance the Libra themes in your life. Okay. So you can also do a retrospective and look to the houses in which Taurus and Scorpio ruled, which started around January 20th of 2022 and then is ending now. So over the past 18 months, where did you expand in the Taurus ruled part of your chart? What grew? What allowed you to move forward in that part of your life? And in the Scorpio ruled part of your chart, what got released? What got taken away? What was moved out to now bring space for greater clarity? Okay. So that's all happening on Monday. So naturally, a lot is going on there. Take note. One final thing I want to mention before I move on to Tuesday is that the moon is coming off of that square. Pardon me, Mercury is coming off of that square to Jupiter. So I love any transit to Jupiter. It doesn't matter if it is a square opposition. It's still going to be very impactful. So noticing where your mind is feeling called to expand, where your voice is expanding, where business and commerce is being expanded upon, especially makes you feel uncomfortable. If there are ways you're like, oh, I really need to maybe make time to put into my side hustle, into my health, into my dating life, whatever that is, there are likely to be very intense downloads coming through that are going to be amplified on Tuesday when the moon moves into Leo conjunct Mercury. And then this energy is still going to be in square to Jupiter. So that's why I want you to get clear and kind of maybe think back over the weekend and what themes came up, because once we have that new moon activation and then the moon is conjunct Mercury square Jupiter, those themes are likely to be expanded upon. And given that Mercury rules over commerce, that's also likely to play in for many of you with your career. Doesn't mean that all of you are going to be shifting careers, but you might be reevaluating how you want to approach your career or approaching your work, or how hard you work, or how you delegate certain things, or how you shine. Remember, this is Leo activation. So there should be an element of joy in your conversations, not just at work, but in your relationships, in your community. And if you're not feeling that joy and inspiration, where can you go to find that light, to find that happiness, which the word, of course, the theme of happiness is a major thing that we are going to be working through this week. So that is just something I want you to notice. And of course, this can be podcasts, this can be books, this can be interviews, this can be courses that you are engaging in to feel happy being in the presence of knowledge, of wisdom, that being a very key Mercury Jupiter energy. I know for me recently, I just did a workshop for another energy that I'm working on, and the instructor was so positive, so happy. They're a Pisces, and it just made me more inspired to want to do this work, because I was thinking, they're such a beacon of light, they're so joyous, they're so happy, I'm enjoying being here. The workshop went for about 7.5 hours, and it honestly felt like 2 or 3. Like, that's the vibe that many of us have felt in some way, shape, or form, whether it's with a friend, a lover, in a course, where time just goes by so fast because there's so enthralled in what you are doing. So that's an energy that I want to emphasize on Tuesday is there energy or conversation that's making you happy? And if not, how can you pivot so that you're spending more time in those realms moving forward? All right. And at this point too, Venus is hardly moving, like she's about to station on the 22nd. So this is also, given that Tuesday, the moon is co-present Venus, when we move to Wednesday, it's going to be conjunct Venus, that you're reevaluating those Venusian themes, which we've been talking about throughout over the past couple of weeks. As well, if you're wanting to cultivate a better understanding of the domains in which Venus rules and how to make that a daily practice to amplify Venus's domains, my Venus journal is on sale. It's a brilliant 30-day guide with an exercise and activity each and every day to help you call upon these themes of Venus. And of course, with Venus going retrograde, that is a perfect time to reflect, to go back to certain areas of your life to cultivate more beauty, pleasure, creativity, and love naturally. So with Wednesday, the moon sandwiched between Mercury and Venus, there's likely to be some kind of conversation with a loved one or with a lover that is taking place in a good way. We also have all of this energy making a square between Jupiter and Uranus. So it might be unexpected as well. And this is kind of going back to that analogy I had at the start of this video of like, if there's a leak in your sink in the bathroom downstairs of your house or in the kitchen of your apartment, don't just leave it. It is better to address it, to have that conversation so that it can be remedied and that your sink can work perfectly and not cause a flood. If there is a conversation you are wanting to have, maybe just going for it or using this impromptu Uranian energy to your advantage. That doesn't have to be just with a loved one. It could be with a boss. It could be anyone. But since we're still in this new moon phase, if there's something new that you're wanting to initiate in either a business or personal relationship, Wednesday is the day to do it. All right. Good. And at this point as well, we now have Thursday, the sun making that exact trine to Neptune retrograde. So Wednesday, Thursday as well, this could be a time where there's increased creativity, increased spiritual activity in terms of downloads, dream interpretation, enhanced intuition, all of these really good things. So that's why also if you do the work on Monday with the Cancer new moon, by the time you get to Thursday, it'll probably be very loud, very obvious in what you're wanting to cultivate and build. So please, please, please take full advantage of this week, because once we hit Thursday, moving into Friday, Saturday, we're really addressing this Mars-Saturn opposition. So this is just going to be an energy where you might feel like you have to work really hard in terms of these Saturnine energies, which is discipline, mastery, authority. Even if we're looking at Mars in Virgo, Saturn in Pisces, it could be doing a lot of mental reframing, mindset work to address emotional wounds or to build emotional boundaries in, let's say, your relationship. So let's give an example. Let's say in the past, whenever you've had a conversation with an authority figure, whether that be a boss, a manager, a parent, a lover, not saying that a lover is going to be an authoritative figure, but someone that's maybe powerful in your life or authoritative, depending on the relationship, that in the past it has gone poorly or that you have not gotten what you wanted. So every time that you approach a superior or an authoritative figure or a powerful figure, you automatically in your mind are bracing and preparing for the worst, because there is a story that having this conversation is going to end poorly for you. So we're talking Mars in Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And so there can be a lot of these thoughts and ideas, but one of the greatest elements of Virgo is to purify, is to work out these systems to benefit the entire structure. So with Mars here, we want to put forth work into our systems, into how clean these systems run in whatever area of your life, especially in the house that Virgo rules, so that with these new systems, with this new order, with this new purity, we have no problem doing the work to build a new mindset, a new structure, a new relationship that is going to benefit us. And here's the thing, with the sun making that trine to Neptune, this is the time to be words are spells, to ask for signs, to trust in the synchronicities. That way, if there is any anxiety about approaching a powerful or authoritative figure, whether it's internally or externally, you have all of this beautiful heavenly spiritual support at your back. Because on Thursday, the moon starts off in Leo, but then it shortly moves into Virgo. So having that moon Mars conjunction applying Saturn may elevate especially moving into Friday. So Thursday or Friday, depending on the time zone, we're really going to be feeling this Moon-Mars conjunction. So be careful of what you eat, given that Virgo rules the intestines. It might also be a great time for you to address your gut health if that's been something that has kind of been a drip in your life, where it's like, I'll get to it. Maybe this could be a manifestation of you being in a lot of pain in your stomach, or you just feeling like there's no more you can ignore it. So maybe you're going to up your supplement game. Maybe you're going to go to a naturopath. Maybe you're going to do a cleanse. Maybe you're going to eliminate alcohol. There might be many things, but that could also be an energy too, where it's simply addressing your health, addressing what you are eating, addressing how your body supports you. So really take note of that on Friday if these are energies that are coming through. The one thing to note as well is that even though the moon is conjunct Mars on Friday, the moon is making a trine to Jupiter. So it does seem like there's going to be some kind of knowledge, generosity, or blessing that will help you to mitigate or to work with this Mars-Saturn opposition. So I don't want anyone to get anxious about this, because there is a really strong blessing happening here to help us exponentially. Now, when we move on to Saturday, Venus will station retrograde later this day at around 6:33 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So just know that it's interesting, because later that evening on Saturday, Venus stations retrograde, and then about 90 minutes later the sun moves into Leo. So take note of this Cancer ruled part of your chart, especially after that new moon, because once the moon moves out of Cancer at the start of the week, the sun is there by itself and it's finishing up its transit, still in connection to Neptune. So it's likely that the Cancer and Pisces rule part of your chart will be very activated, very loud, especially on Saturday when the sun is at 29 degrees, Friday, Saturday there. So that when we move into this moon Uranus trine, that's also happening on Saturday, you can see where maybe your emotional energy has shifted, where things are moving in your favor, that you've went through that Thursday, Friday transit, knowing what needs to be cleaned up, knowing where you need to have authority or autonomy in your life, because now we see here that Mars is separating from that opposition. So anything that might be turbulent, challenging, or hard, know that that will get smoothed out after this weekend. Of course, with Venus stationing retrograde, I wouldn't recommend any kind of like beauty procedures, any type of wild things around relationships on Saturday, because Venus is kind of in her void. She's going to be stationing. We're not going to have a lot of power there. So kind of keeping it low, keeping it relaxed over the weekend would be wise, in my opinion. It's not saying you can't do anything. If you have like a regular scheduled haircut, if you're meeting with friends, that's fine. But you might just feel like you have lower energy that you need to put more into yourself during the weekend. And then on Sunday, it's the first full day of Leo season. So happy birthday to all the Leo angels watching. And of course, this is going to be very activating for Leo risings, for fixed signs, for fire signs, because the sun is in its home sign of Leo and it's still co-present. Mercury is going to be co-present and conjunct Venus this entire Leo season. So looking at that Leo ruled part of your chart will also amplify the happiness, the energy that is going to be prominent over these next 30 days. And we have the moon in Libra. So with the moon in Libra making a sextile to the sun, it just feels like things will be a lot more balanced, more relaxed at the end of this weekend. We can now see that Mars is almost 3 degrees away from Saturn. So things will ease up and lessen in intensity after this weekend. So that's something to look forward to. So I would take Friday and Saturday to relax, to chill, to see what's coming through. And then Sunday things will pick up and I'm sure you'll be in a more joyous and buoyant state. Okay. Boom. So the astrology question of the week, this was coming through in terms of last week, we were just talking about certain transits happening. And there was a comment that said, it feels like another week of white knuckling it. And so this always comes back to mindset, right? And all of these transits, no matter what it is, including this week's Mars-Saturn opposition, these transits are here to help you. These transits are here to support you. It's not saying that they might not be difficult or challenging, but at the end of the day, in those moments of challenge, in those moments of difficulty, it's meant to push you out of your comfort zone to expand and to grow. I always use gym analogies. most likely my Aries moon, but you've had workouts where you push yourself, where you're dripping in sweat, where it feels like you're not going to get through that workout. And then when you do that workout the next week or a similar workout and you're not exhausted, you're not pushing your breaking point, you're like, oh, I got stronger because I went through that. We all can see that in a workout type setting, or when you push yourself at work and you present and it's well received, you're like, great, now I know that I can do that. Now I can go even further. It's the exact same thing with a challenging or difficult transit. I think sometimes people just get very anxious or fear induced that it won't end or it won't pass, because humans often revert back to the worst case scenario and hoping for the best, expecting the worst, all of these programmed sayings that don't make any sense, to brace for a hard transit. If it is a challenging transit, know it's always supporting you and you're going to come out of it 10 times stronger, 10 times richer, 10 times more loved, whatever that mindset is. So that's one thing I want to address. And then they were basically just asking if I can address what it means for having Mars in Virgo. Let's say if you are a Virgo rising. So to expand upon this, I'll talk about if you have Mars or Saturn in the first house and how you can use that to your advantage. So given that Mars is currently in Virgo, how can that manifest, or how can a Mars in your first house transit manifest? So remember that Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio and Aries. So whenever you have Mars in the first house, you want to look at the houses in which Scorpio and Aries rule, because those are energies that you are likely to feel heat from, where you're going to feel passionate, where you're going to work more, where you're going to exert more energy, where you might be frustrated or angry if things are not moving how you want them to. So that's a very easy way of saying, where am I wanting to work right now? Where am I wanting to see more passion or drive or inspiration? Look to those houses. And of course, if you're an Aries or Scorpio rising, when you have that Mars in the first house transit, then of course, that'll be within yourself as being a very big indicator of what you're working on during that transit, how you wish to feel your own energy, your own drive. Number two, for anyone, when Mars is in your first house, it can speak to infection, injury, cuts. These are all things that Mars rules. It doesn't have to necessarily, but it can speak to you working on your health. And we just talked about how that Mars-Saturn opposition could be related to your gut health, given that Virgo rules the intestines. So depending on what your rising sign is, when Mars is in that first house, you want to be sensitive and aware to the part of the body that that zodiac sign rules. So let's say you're an Aries rising, Aries rules the head. So you might be getting surgery on your face. You might have a cut on your face. I would always make sure that you're wearing a helmet if you were biking. If let's say you're an Aries rising with Mars in the first, like you just want to mitigate anything that could affect your head as one manifestation of Mars in the first. Another manifestation of that being increased energy, right? If Mars is in strong dignity and Mars is making good aspects, let's say to the moon, to your natal Mars, to Jupiter, it'll just be like an Energizer Bunny type transit where you have more and more energy to do a lot of things, which is great. The other side of that is burnout. So you just have to be careful that when Mars is in the first, you're not taking on too many things with, let's say, if you're a Virgo rising right now, that you're trying to help so many other people that you're left burnt out. And Virgo can have that tendency too of perfectionism, of wanting everything to be just right. So if you're taking on more and more work, you're trying to help more and more people, or the Aries and Scorpio ruled parts of your chart are activated very strongly, and you're doing all this work in two different areas, plus yourself, of course, it can be overwhelming. So that's where you need to practice discernment, which in this case is a very Virgo energy anyways, to see how you can best use Mars to its advantage. Now, to briefly talk about Saturn in the first, Saturn rules over Aquarius and Capricorn. So whenever you have Saturn in the first, right now it's for our Pisces rising angels, look to the Capricorn and Aquarius parts of your chart. You're going to be spending a lot of time there, a lot of boundaries, a lot of mastery in those parts of your life. Saturn in the first, as a personal example, is when I created Stillwater. When Saturn was in Capricorn, Stillwater Alchemy was born. So for me, yes, you might be putting a lot of energy into different structures in your life when Saturn is in your first house. It might be a time where you're working very hard, but the trick here is to work for something or work on something that is going to give you long-term rewards, and or working on something that you enjoy. Like I enjoy doing all the stuff for Stillwater. It's very exciting for me. There were times where I was working really hard and, in my opinion, not seeing the results that I wanted, but I was building this beautiful structure to have this platform right now to speak to all of you. So that's just a little Cliff Notes version on how you can reframe having a malefic planet like Mars or Saturn in your first house. And especially for Mars, unless it's retrograde, it's only going to be 5 or 6 weeks. So to freak out about that, it's not a very long transit. And in its best energy is an opportunity for you to have increased energy and get a lot of work done. So imagine getting through your to-do list in an hour every day. Like, that's the energy that you can work with a Mars in the first. And the last thing I'll say about if you're a Virgo rising right now, having Mars in the first house, Jupiter and Uranus are in Taurus. You have Mars trine Jupiter. So this is one of the best times to be a Virgo rising with having Mars in the first house. You have Jupiter in a fellow Earth sign. So enjoy this. If you are a Virgo rising, there is no need to be anxious. Sometimes with Virgo dominant energy, it's like paralysis by analysis. You're in your head. Do not say yes to everything. This goes for everyone because Mars is in Virgo for everyone's chart. So it can be feeling like you have to do so many things or to make everything perfect or to try and help get these systems in order. No. Exert the energy, the drive, and passion into areas that you want, especially this week with Mars opposing Saturn. You want to ensure that you're working to address structures and foundations that are going to support your emotional well-being. Boundaries, 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 using your words to your advantage. All right. That's all I got. All the offerings and goodies can be found in the description of this video. Stay tuned for more offerings, more content around the nodal shift and Venus retrograde. There's going to be more in the weeks to come. And have a fabulous week ahead. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.